What's the economics book that's had the biggest impact on you?
It's one I've read recently. It's called Donut Economics, and I really, really like it. The other book that's making a lot of impact is The Deficit Myth by Stephanie Kelton, but I had read most of her work before the book was published. Fill in the blanks, please. Economists are
very often wrong and normally always politically motivated. What can we do as a democracy to try and have much more conversation about the kind of economy that we can have?
I mean, that's what's driving my whole interest, really, or the fact that I can't leave it behind, because I keep trying to leave economics behind, but I just think it's such a powerful language and it does literally drive policy.
Can you give us a definition of what inflation actually is?
Yes, I can, which would have made for a very short interview if I'd opened with no.
These idiots, these overstretched idiots, believe they can apply their model to areas that they have no knowledge about whatsoever, which is climatology.
But the reality is that growth has had its chance and it hasn't delivered for enough people. It's not as if when Scotland's economy was growing prior to COVID that lifted, enabled enough people to come out of poverty, that it delivered quality jobs for people, that it helped communities feel in control of their lives.
One way or another, we need to make sure that we decouple the relationship between a growing GDP and a growing emissions.
Well, it's not so much, I think, the election of Joe Biden that has changed the policy debate. It's more COVID that has done it.
As far as the UK government is concerned, no, it has never repaid, not since the 18th century anyway, the whole of the UK's national debt. Currency issuers in their own currency don't, in a meaningful sense, have debt at all.
Yeah, absolutely, William. I mean, that your question about Scotland goes very much to my heart. And
yeah, I mean, it's such a fascinating issue is, what are the sources of the oil industry's power?
I'm delighted to have learned about you guys. I didn't know about Scottonomics, and so I just think it's so great. We need something like that in the United States, and I'm definitely going to let people know about it. And thrilled that you guys are doing this, and also the depth with which you've done it. You guys are covering all the different angles, and not just on this issue, but on a lot of other issues. And I think it's fantastic. So I'm very excited to have learned about Scottonomics, and I will be paying attention from now on.
Just wondered if either of you have come across GERS as a measurement for the Scottish economy.
I mean, it was. Thank you for putting us onto it in many respects, because it is.
No, I didn't know it existed, but it is really interesting.
It's amazing to read about.
Yeah.
Because no other developed country, sophisticated economy has ever tried to use somebody else's currency. The Eurozone isn't a case of using somebody else's currency because it's a currency union with a shared currency, and that's completely different.
To the extent that an independent Scotland would have its own currency, that would be a positive, right?
The status of Scotland right now is the equivalent of a district or municipality transitioning to an independent Scotland without acquiring full monetary sovereignty and the capacity to issue a national currency is not true economic independence. You're still, from a financial economic standpoint, you're still going to be a sub-region of the UK government.
Scotland wouldn't have any influence over the Bank of England. Whereas if we were part of the European Union, we would be one of the members who had, even if it's kind of tacit influence, but we would effectively be giving our monetary policy to a foreign country.
I see. Well,
do I think the solidarity payment is a good idea? No, I don't. You might say that it's Scottish people being honest and nice. I think it's being foolish and self-sabotage.
You're talking about economic projections which are 5 years, 10 years or more down the line. Most of it is at the very best informed speculation. But the contrast and the telling aspect that I think revealed itself from our research is that the speculation emanating from a pro-independence position was given far more critical treatment than the speculative opinions which were emanating from the Better Together campaign, for example.
Probably the biggest gap at the moment is it always comes down to money. How do you fund this transition?
We've seen, I mean, the UK, more than most any major country anyway, is really a prime example of a sort of rentier economy where rent extraction is the sort of primary mode of wealth accumulation.
Well, we've outsourced our entire food system to about 4 large companies, and they work on a just-in-time delivery system, and that's what we see breaking down at the moment.
Oh, a brilliant question.
I mean, that's a really profound question.
Pat, it's a really, really interesting question.
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Good question.
That's a very good question.
I mean, that's such a beautiful and very hypothetical question.
So, you know, I do think that all of these small things together will create a big thing. And, well, I hope that me and William can do something to debunk that with this programme. And that's my hope and my prayer.